Dear brothers and sisters, I have nothing to say. Just enjoy seeing your smiling face. That itself, you see, showing us you are the same human being. So then, actually, I'm waiting the real discussions. Then, you see, not just one person needs to speak something, but rather interaction, right? Interaction. And through that way, I also may get some new understanding through interaction. And you also get some sort of new ideas, new experience. So I'm looking forward to serious discussions. At the beginning, I have nothing to say. Then, one thing, I always used to sleep 9 hours, sometimes 10 hours. Then morning, at least 3 hours, some meditation, mainly analytical meditation, analyze. Firstly, where is I, myself? Then everybody, I think yesterday, I think I didn't mention. Now, some occasion, our meeting with scientists, one sort of picture show one very, very infant child, 6-month-old, language not yet developed. So the real human sort of nature, more alive, not polluted or something. So when that, I think yesterday I mentioned, not here. So the one sort of cartoon, 2 young children play together, showing smile. And that picture show to that infant child smiling. Then another sort of picture, cartoon, 2 young children, negative attitude, one another. When the 6-month-old infant child, and saw that expression of unhappiness. So then, some scientists say, basic human nature is more compassionate. Then more serious sort of example, a person, constant experience anger, hatred, actually eating our immune system. Whereas person keep more compassionate mind, very, very helpful to maintain immune system. So these are the scientists, through their experiment, they found that. So then they say basic human nature is more compassionate. When I heard that, I really felt now there is hope. And then I think obviously children. Many years ago in Switzerland, pathology or something, there are some Jewish Israeli children, Palestinian children, live together and play together. So at that level, they don't care what nation, what faith, but just human brothers, sisters. So therefore, at the young age, basic human sort of nature more alive. Once they join education field, then in education, making distinction, political reason or spiritual reason and some other sort of reason, make distinction. Then these young children gradually develop the sense of we and they. So that kind of education, I think, instead of helping human being keep more alive basic human nature, compassion, but rather too much sort of because of the discrimination, we and they. So the existing education system not adequate. Now must pay more attention to how to keep basic human nature, that's compassion. Although these things, other animals also have, you see, that more compassionate feeling, at least towards their own immediate sort of circle. Now we have this brain, so use this brain through education. We can extend sense of concern of others' well-being, not only your own small circle people, but eventually entire human being. As a Buddhist, you see, we all say there's an entire sentient being. So then that kind of sort of thinking, educate, then basic human value there, then this brain, you see, should help to further also the strengthening. Strengthening. So that's lacking now. In spite of basic human nature, wonderful, compassionate. But once join education, not talking these values, but rather talking some other sort of thing. And then mainly, I think modern life, because of that kind of education, I think very much materialistic life. And with that materialistic culture, we always look external thing. Some sports, you get some sort of happiness or something. Then hearing music. You see, never sort of emphasis without relying on a sensorial sort of consciousness, just mind, mental, try to train that level. Then sensorial experience is just also the way to bring information, but real joyfulness not with sensorial experience, but mental experience. So therefore, ancient Indian knowledge about mind, training of mind like shamatha and vipassana, not training our sensorial thing, but mental thing. So now, although these, the information, shamatha, vipassana, these come from religious text. Now we should take this as an academic subject. Yesterday I mentioned as a sort of knowledge how to bring inner peace. Not talking next life, not talking nirvana, not talking God or Buddha. Like that. So I'm expecting now some serious discussion now.
The question before you now in the interactive session is to go now and synergize the brain waves of the Vice Chancellors and all those attending this session to once again thresh out very clearly the secular value. The word secular is underlined because that will make it universal, otherwise it will belong to a particular territory. His Holiness is very clear in his mind that we need to talk of universal values. So any burning questions in your mind on the universal values of the kind which you would like to trade and transact? So many hands, so you can see, sir, so much interest. Very difficult. I'll go over there with the person with the spectacles who has perhaps spent a lot of time reading, thinking, meditating, and doing yoga exercises. Please.
Sheil Nona from the Queensland University of Technology in Australia. You know, in India, we had this whole tradition of education institutions where we used to say that the institutions are the seat of education and learning. And with the learning, we used to get a lot of human values and the human touch. Over a period of time, we see that the learning has come out and the institutions are becoming only the seat of education. The question is, what is gone wrong, where the learning has come out from education, and what can be done to bring the learning back to education institutions so that we are able to imbibe the human values?
Kosa.
Your Holiness, you want to respond right now? What
Yes.
has gone wrong in our learning that we have taken out the training of mind and listening to the soul out of our learning exercises?
Of course, my knowledge is limited, but seems to me the so-called modern education started from West. I think yesterday also I already mentioned. So the people, see, when science and technology develop, that brings benefit or comfort immediately. Prayer, maybe long future, but not much helpful immediately. So therefore, people very much excited about material development. So, I feel education mainly focusing about material development. This is my feeling.
Very good. I think the answer is very straight. The connect is to be discovered and restored. We have the Honorable Vice Chancellor over there. Please.
Good morning, sir. I'm Dr. Vivek Savji from Belgaum. Sir, Your Holiness, yesterday in your speech, you mentioned about emotional hygiene. And you said that we practice physical hygiene, but we don't practice emotional hygiene. And from the speakers, we've heard that fear, frustration, anger, some of these are the issues which have been really taking toll on all of us. So how can we practice emotional hygiene? And is there anything, we would like to learn more about it from Your Holiness.
Sir, how to practice emotional hygiene, and that too in a manner that we can practice in 5 minutes.
Now, some you see people, some scientists like Paul Ekman, now identify certain different emotions. That's helpful. In ancient Indian psychology, I think the very, very detailed explanation about different minds. Some the symptoms consider.
Mind and mental factors.
Cases
Mind.
So mind, usually we say 6 minds. And then according to Chitta Mantra, 8 minds. Then kasa, Simjum. Mental factor, 51. And some text, even more. So these, very, very useful. You see, the emotions are one of them. So how it developed and what kind of connection within these different mental factors.
Madam sitting next to the Honorable
So-
Vice Chancellor.
So now important is, as an academic subject, I think very useful to study in textbook about these because of the mind. Oh. And then also there are sensory level consciousness that occur only awakening time. Then during dreaming time, another level of consciousness. Sensorial consciousness no longer, but mental consciousness still there. Then deep sleep without dream, more deeper. Then it faint, a time of faint, even deeper consciousness. Now some American scientists now carry some project, so the investigation at the time of death, physically death, heart beating stop, brain activity stop, dead, but body still remain fresh. So the only explanation is the subtle mind, innermost, the subtle mind still in the center of channel. So these, I think, quite useful for also the academic subject, and that very useful for hygiene of emotion.
Mental hygiene very important. Madam asked a straight question to the Honorable Holiness, sir.
Compassion
Otherwise,
in your speech.
Oh yes.
So I would like to hear from you about the gender disparity and violence against women, young girls, and even killing the female feticide in our educated, civilized society. That happens more. We should be more concerned about being educated, and it still persists. It's a ground reality, social reality. I would like to seek your views on this. Another thing is that in our modern education system, because of digitalization, we are losing human touch. Yesterday we were discussing classroom teacher-student relationship is declining, and we are gaining knowledge from digital world. So less of human touch. How can we encourage human compassion? How can competition and compassion go together? That is what I would like to...
How can compassion and competition go together, His Holiness?
Some different sort of points now. Discrimination, male and female. I think they like farming system, these things, physically, male, more sort of useful. So in ancient time, so some kind of discrimination. That even, you see, influence or effect in religious field. But then Buddha make very much emphasis equal, male and female. Bhikshu, the highest sort of vow or celibate. Then similarly, Bhikshuni. So in any way, our society, I think, still old thinking, traces of old thinking. Now, for example, in this country, unfortunately, caste system still there. I think the certain sort of tradition come from feudal system. Now feudal system gone. Now we are at the time democratic sort of society. Everybody equal. Under law, from president or beggar, same. So India's constitution give us equal right, but in backward area, still caste system, still there. These, I think, through education. And mainly, I feel, religious leader should come out. Now say, this discrimination on the basis of caste system is outdated. So this is so similarly, male, female, and I think basically the male need female, female need male, equal.
Thank you, sir. We have the next question from
And
Honorable
then-
Vice Chancellor, then I'll come to Madam.
Then,
Yes, please.
then you know, mother is female. Mother is, I think, the ultimate source of love, compassion. As soon as we're born, without mother's love, we no longer there. We die. So, very our life survived with parents' care, particularly mother's care and mother's milk. So, in the society, mother is the ultimate source of also compassion, love. So, I often used to telling the now education alone, existing education alone, not sufficient. We must make more effort for promotion of compassion. In that respect, female should take more active role.
Very good. If love is God, we need to understand love is Atmita. Otherwise, that love will come something else. So, next question from the professor, sir.
Sita Ramarao. His Holiness, I would like to know from you, sir. So far, human civilization underwent agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, technological revolution, and IT revolution. So going on, nanotechnology revolution also may come in future. But it is mentioned about the spiritual revolution in the humanity. What is spiritual revolution? How it should be brought in the society and world as a whole? This is my question, sir. I would like.
Is there any scope for spiritual revolution along with information technology revolution and the revolution of the fifth generation science and technology?
It is very important to make distinction, spirituality with religious belief. And another spirituality, just secular ethics. You see, these, I think, now religious matter to religious people. Sometimes they use wrong way. I think one famous news, one spiritual leader in Haryana, now in prison. So sometimes, you see, the spirituality with faith, sometimes you see become instrument exploitation. I think that no need to human being. The other hand, the essence of various spiritual tradition, the essence message is message of love. Now that, so long we human beings remain on this planet with sophisticated mind, human love is very essential. So now, the religious, spirituality with religious faith, not adequate. So now we need 1,000-year-old Indian tradition, secular.
Well, we will thresh out this question further whether spirituality is secular, because spirituality is considered to be beyond religion.
Well, very quickly, and a question not just for students, but from also the personal context. When we talk of introducing compassion, which was missing in the education because of the Western influence, what we also mean is that we have to make space for it. That means the Western, the technical, the scientific education becomes a bit slower. I, as a student, am likely to accept an education like that if I see that after learning this new bit that is being introduced in my system, that's how a student sees the syllabus, I will still get something that I want to get and I will reach somewhere that I want to reach. And then for me as a student to accept the new system, I need to have faith. And I think today's concern and the big concern is that, that faith is something I don't
Main point, your question, main point?
Faith. To be able to experiment, introducing compassion in education. I, as a student, I, as a teacher, lack the faith.
Now, I feel time come. the promotion or basis of promotion of compassion instead of based on religion, but based on science. Now, scientific finding, as I mentioned before, the scientist now who sort of carry some sort of observation or research, basic human nature is more compassionate. And then, I think, as far as Buddhism is concerned, Buddha himself, you see, emphasis importance of reason, experiment, rather than faith. So therefore, I think today, in past, you see, we sort of relying on our guru. Now I think better to rely on scientists.
Good. Now what I will do, His Holiness will answer together all the questions. I have 2 questions to read out, then I will ask my 2 Vice Chancellors also to say. One of the questions, His Holiness, is how do you spread happiness in the rural areas where people are suffering and having tremendous amount of unhappiness? Another question from the learned Vice Chancellor is this one. How one can balance between materialism, which means prosperity, and happiness? How do I balance that? That's the second question from one of the Vice Chancellors. And I've got 2 more Vice Chancellors raising hands.
I think,
wait.
Professor
over there, please say.
Too many questions together not remain in my mind. So out of compassion to me, I think let me answer after each question. Yes, now.
Professor Ramachandran.
I think rural area. I think now rural area are still lacking education. So maybe some faith there. But this faith is blind faith. Not much thinking. So these blind faith will not remain. Eventually, better education, these will go. So now, the rural area, I think education is the key factor.
Yeah, very good morning, sir. In the area of globalization, everybody they accepts globalization. Country borderless people are accepted everywhere in the world. And people of various linguistics discriminations are also permitted to some extent. But not
so
as
question point.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. You said female is equal to male. We totally agree on that. How to bring them into practice?
How do you practice, sir, that woman is equal to man,
That's
or even better than man? I mean,
that is based on conviction. If compassion remains lip service, then will not carry action in action. Through analyze, through explanation, on the basis of scientific finding, once you really develop conviction, compassion is really immense help to my peace of mind, and through that way, physical health and a happy family, happy community. Then action come. Compassion so long remain because of the lip service, then not much effect.
You have to train your mind for compassion, otherwise it will remain lip service, sir. Yes. Honorable Vice Chancellor.
Yes. Myself, Professor Harikesh Singh, Vice Chancellor, Jayaprakash University, Chhapra, Bihar. My direct question is whether it is proper to say West, W-E-S-T, whether West is W-A-S-T, and then we say that secular ethics. It is very contradictory. Ethics is sufficient. The moment we prefix secular, again we are making a new sect. Ethics itself is sufficient. The maturity of the ethics is secular in its temperament. So, sir, we have to think that this is not the age of disruption. It is a pessimistic approach to perceive and see that the whole era is disruptive. Neither the technology is disruptive. It is the mind of the people, the mind of the men, that is disruptive.
Very
So
good,
east
valid
is
point.
east, west is west. This dichotomy should also be now removed from the mind with along the ethical maturity.
Every human action related with motivation, any action, including preaching, with the motivation with selfish or some kind of negative emotion. And every human action, including teaching or dharma, also become destructive. So ultimately, and every human profession, in order to become constructive, related with mind, motivation. That's how I feel. The motivation, too much self-centered motivation, actually, the very nature of selfish is narrow-minded. Thinking yourself. The compassionate mind, think other. So automatically, mind become more open. Just selfish, think yourself. Very narrow-minded. And with that narrow-minded, even small problem appears as unbearable. More compassionate attitude, even serious problem, you will have the feeling, oh, this is problem, have to solve. But not only this problem, but there are many positive things there. So compassionate mind, open our mind. The holistic attitude develop. The self-centered attitude in only kasa. The narrow mind, focusing, very, very narrow area. And then I think I want to mention my friend, one scientist, Aaron Beck, now over 100-year-old. He, not religious minded. You see, he helping people whose mind too much sort of disturbed by anger. Now he, when I met, his age already 84, he mentioned when people develop anger, the object which that person feel angry appears very negative, but actually 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. So therefore, on that respect, quantum physics is very useful. You see, to reduce the very basis of exaggeration. As far as Buddha Dharma is concerned, Buddhist philosophy is concerned, shunyata, the concept of paticca everything interdependent, no absolute. So that reduce the intensity of anger. Like that. So therefore, now even scientists that scientist, I think, really experienced one. So destructive emotion develop is much based on exaggeration. Now recently, one Chinese quantum physicist, he mentioned that those scientists who really convinced quantum physics, the very basis of mental exaggeration, much thinner. This is a scientific explanation.
I'll just brief it once. You see, I hail from Kerala. Kerala is 100% literate state. You find that the discrimination based on sex, the fights based on caste system are all diminishing, decreasing trend. That's what you said, that education will definitely improve it. But today I find that political animosity, fights and killings are on the increase.
Sir has already answered, shake off those traditions which have become outdated. As simple as that. Now, last question, sir, from the Secretary General of
I
AIU.
think-
I have to do justice, otherwise I will not earn my TA bill.
I think, I think, if possible, you set up one small sort of society to teach about this mental system to politicians.
Your Holiness, I often find myself in a dilemma as to how to understand this phenomena. And this phenomena is that at times I find people at individual level very compassionate, very understanding, very respectful of a variety of culture, but at a collective level, in a group, at a national level, they are not as compassionate. What is this and how do we explain this?
This is very clear. Very clear. These leaders come from a society where, because of the education, not much talking about inner value. So these individuals come from that kind of society, that kind of education, so naturally, more selfish, short-sighted, like that. So only thing, today's problem, basically 7 billion human beings, no one has one problem. Yet many problems, of course, nature disaster, this is something different, beyond our control. But many problems, essentially, our own creation. Why? Nobody wants a problem. But human beings themselves create a lot of problems. Why? The lack of moral principle, that lack of conviction about these altruistic sort of attitudes, value. So now education is the key factor.
Right.
Through prayer will not change. Only through education, awareness. Now gradually, I think one generation pass, the second generation who come through that kind of education, then there is a real hope.
His Holiness, I am Dr. B.P. Veerabhadrappa from Davangere University, Karnataka, southern India. In the days of liberalization, education has been commercialized, either in the West or in the East. And spiritual values and religious values are fading away. Yesterday you talked about dharma. Yesterday you talked about values. But what has actually happened in the days of globalization and liberalization, because of the commercialization of higher education, values are declining. Social values, religious values,
Right.
and spiritual values. Kindly.
That is mainly education. Our existing education is very much oriented about material value. Not much talk about inner value. Therefore, now we are making effort to, how to say, the education should include about inner value. Then, as I mentioned earlier, next generation who come through that kind of education, then I think society, not a materialistic society, materialistic culture, society, of course, need material value, but at the same time, also you say, look from internal value. Then I think things, politics or economy or many fields, then becoming more, how should I say, peaceful or more honest, more truthful. So this is not sufficient to complain these things. Now we have to think the long term. That I believe only education. The education, existing education, only oriented about material value, like that.
Integration of education with value holds the promise. Last word from Go East policy from the NEHU Vice Chancellor, Professor Srivastava.
We have heard about Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. It will be pleasure to all of us and learning experience from you to hear about it from you, Your Highness.
Karsa.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Could you please elaborate the message which is closely connected with the present theme of the conference?
I think the very word Buddha means negative things completely eliminated. Then the very nature of our mind have the potential or ability to know things. So long ignorance there, our knowing limited. Once ignorance completely disappear, then the nature's full potential, knowing everything. So that means Buddha, eliminate ignorance, and then fully, develop all the potential of mind. That's meaning of Buddha. Now important is I think as far as Buddha Dharma is concerned, now it is important. Buddha not come from outside, but our very nature of our mind is Buddha nature. Tathagata Garbha, or Sugata Sindaya. So this very mind, at the moment, dominant by ignorance. Once ignorance remove, that very sort of nature of this mind become Buddha's mind. But not easy. Saying easy, within a few years you may achieve Buddhahood, but it seems nobody achieved that within that short period. But as a Buddhist practitioner, student of Nalanda tradition, not just faith, but analyze. Analytical meditation, according to my own experience, immense effect on my own emotion. It's very clear. Every emotion based on ignorance, the opposition of emotion, that's wisdom based on reason. So wisdom have much more powerful than ignorance. Destructive emotion, no valid base. Or the wisdom side, valid base. So we can strengthen that, not day by day, but decade by decade. We can increase the power of wisdom side. So more deeper experience about wisdom, the opposite, ignorance, automatically reduce. Once ignorance reduce, all destructive emotion which based on ignorance and then become thinner.